Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Whoa! What's going on here, Matty? Where the heck are you? Yeah, I know if you've not been watching the channel for a number of years, you may not recognize my surroundings. This is my bedroom, where, if you've watched for a while, not much has changed. We got some Demon Slayer to our right. We got an Xbox and a Game Boy to our left. The essentials, right? That's what this bedroom's all about. But I recorded a ton of videos in here for a while. Then we moved into an office space. There was a terrible snowstorm, so I brought everything home. I was like, yo, if we got to work from home, we got to be ready. And good thing I was ready, because there's been a lot to talk about with the game of 2022, Starfield. This is our first video for 2022 when it comes to Starfield. One of many, I would imagine. Really excited about this one. Bethesda Game Studios' first brand new IP in 2 decades. So there's a lot of excitement that I imagine will ramp up. And let's get all that kickstarted, right? Because we have a collector's edition leak. Now, a lot of us who've been paying close attention to Starfield may know that there was a watch involved, but the details of said watch are actually pretty cool, I would have to say. Beyond that, we're getting a good idea of what stage Starfield is at in its development cycle, and that we can buy into that release date a little bit more of it actually coming out at the end of this year, because we all know that Bethesda Game Studios marked that very, very early in June, saying, yep, next November, we'll see you there. And then last but not least, a couple more Starfield image leaks, because why not? Want to shout out my boy Skullsy, because he did round up a lot of its information. Some of these news and leaks actually occurred during the holiday break, so I guess in a manner of speaking, I'm still catching up, but I didn't see many sites covering it. So anyways, enough of that. Let's stop lollygagging. If you're new here and you're looking for more Starfield news and information, consider subscribing. We're going to be talking about an absolute ton here on the channel. And now, let's get into it with the Collector's Edition leak. So we already know BGS, they got their finger on the pulse when it comes to a good Collector's Edition. Actually, right above me, hold on, bang, we got the Fallout 4 Pip-Boy. Oh! Covered in dust. Okay. If you ever think my videos are scripted, now you know. Okay. Yeah, they did a pretty good job with this stuff. And what you would do with the Fallout 4 Pip-Boy is you'd load your phone in here, you'd fire up the Pip-Boy app, and while you were playing Fallout 4 on your console or your PC, you could actually change your stuff in your inventory on your character by wearing the Pip-Boy itself. I did it once. I never did it again. I think Bethesda recognized that and said, let's do something more practical. So they said, let's make a smartwatch. How is this discovered? What's the story behind it? Let's get into just that. We're on this website called The Wand Company. Coincidentally, The Wand Company has made a Nuka-Cola delivery truck die-cast replica. They've also made their own Pip-Boy kit. They've made a holotape kit. They have a ton of Fallout products on their website. And then it was discovered that The Wand Company is also working on the LPV6 Chrono Mark smartwatch? Yes, Bethesda appears to be making a smartwatch as a collector's edition item for Starfield. Let's get into some of the functionality of this, because you may again recognize this. During a brief behind the scenes trailer for Starfield, we saw this little case here that when it was unlatched, you saw the Constellation logo alongside this smartwatch. And when you go over to, of course, this website, The Wand Company, you'll see, what's this? The Constellation logo in the middle. And this can actually tell us a little bit more about the game when you start to sift through some of the images. It starts to tell us about sunrise, sunset, analog time, all sorts of readings as well, barometric pressure, watch temperature measurements. It also gets into the direct weather icons itself, and as you can see in this image here, pretty detailed stuff for the smartwatch. There also is a setting here, and you'll notice on one of the settings is Bluetooth, which means that you will be able to link this thing up to your phone. And last but not least, if there was any doubt that this is connected to Bethesda, then just look at the rightmost photo here, which says 2022 Bethesda Softworks, a ZeniMax media company, all rights reserved. So this indeed is the manual. These are some of the settings for the Chrono Mark watch for Starfield's Collector's Edition, which we've already seen. So I thought this was pretty awesome to see just leak out there in the open and actually get some real details on it, because while we did have a HUD leak from a gameplay build of 2018, 2019, video games change throughout the development cycle. And so I was wondering to myself, like, will this stuff stay true? Because right away, speculation took me to the idea of certain planets will have different temperatures. You have to wear different items for those different planets. There was an oxygen meter that we did see on one of the bits of HUD there. So I feel like this is a play on that. Bethesda loves their wristwear that connects to all the data in the game, so I definitely anticipate this being a key component of the game if they're trying to sell us a watch that you'll be using in the game. And I think it does indicate that a lot of these plans will feel and play differently and require different aspects from the player. Again, just speculation on that, but I do think it's a pretty safe guess based off some of the data that's going to be in this smartwatch versus what we saw in the gameplay screenshot leak and what Starfield has as a potential sci-fi open world game. So with that, pretty exciting stuff on the collector's edition front. No idea of pricing yet. If I were to make a guess, I'm going to throw it around the $200, $250 price range. We are talking about a smartwatch here, maybe a little bit more, but time will tell on that. Let's move on to our next bit of news here. I mentioned how it looks like Starfield's development cycle is wrapping up. The reason this is kind of news is because pre-pandemic, it was like, yeah, they're putting a date on it, and I imagine nothing's going to get in the way. They should be able to hit that date, and it was a good time, right? Now we're post-pandemic. We have work from home situations. We have a lot changing in the development cycle. It's tougher for these teams. And so with that comes a lot of significant delays. We just saw Stalker 2 get pushed back 7 months. And I'm sure it's not going to be the only game this year that suffers a significant delay. So now we have a good idea of where Starfield may be at in its development cycle. This comes from LinkedIn, where Keith Beltramini, who is a senior lighting artist at Bethesda Game Studios, made a post saying, if you are a senior lighting artist with cinematic film experience and are looking to jump into lighting video games, Bethesda Game Studios is looking for you. This was posted 2 months ago, which is around the time that Todd Howard had confirmed in a separate interview that Starfield is fully playable from start to finish and the release date is firmly set in stone. This was during an interview with IGN where Todd Howard went on unfiltered. Between it being playable from start to finish, as well as them focusing on lighting now at this point in the development cycle, that they're prioritizing all of that, it would put them in the final stage of development where they're doing a lot of cleanup work. Now, this is different for a lot of games depending on scale and, of course, how many permutations you have. But them having effectively a full year almost to polish this game is really encouraging to see, because if they're at the end of the development cycle now and they're doing these last touches here, I did see Skullsy shared a bit of gameplay here. Again, I want to shout him out because I was going through his channel for a lot of these updates here because he was covering it through the holiday break, so salute to him for doing that. But he also showed some very early gameplay of Skyrim where the animations were not fully implemented, and you could actually see in this very fuzzy gameplay that the lighting also wasn't baked in yet. This was a bit before its launch, so this is stuff that's implemented later in the development cycle. Again, this does alter on a team-by-team basis. One development company's methods are not the same as the others, so a lot of this is dependent on Bethesda doing the same thing, say they did with Skyrim. But I will say that, again, with them saying back in November it's playable from start to finish and that they're effectively doing polishing is really encouraging, and again does hammer home the idea that what we were hearing about potentially coming out in 2021 wasn't that much of a far cry. But them having a year to polish, really good. This could be the difference we see with Xbox being involved, where Bethesda didn't have to hit that holiday window. So I thought that this was pretty encouraging to see nonetheless. The last bit of news that I do want to get into with this video, news if you will, are some hilarious leaked screenshots. So there was a 2018-2019 build of Starfield that leaked, and we saw those screenshots just last year as well as in 2020. We've covered them multiple times on the channel because each time they show us a little bit more. This time I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it's anything crazy. It's hilarious because it's a wall and it's a roof. If there's anything you could really take away from these two screenshots, to me, it's probably that, again, I'm getting a pretty strong feeling in my gut that Starfield is going to mess around with settlement mode. Now, when we were running Ham Radio Live, this was a question that we got a couple of times when viewers would call in. We would have people asking, like, what do you feel about Starfield having a potential settlement mode? Some folks were really for it. Some folks were really against it. It's definitely a divisive topic. I sit in the camp that pretty much says, I'm not against settlement mode if it doesn't take away from other aspects of the game that I think Bethesda Game Studios does much better. Choices, storytelling, world building, exploration, those need to thrive. And if this mode exists on the side, then that's great. Considering that Bethesda Game Studios has a lot of the framework built for a functioning settlement system already, thanks to Fallout 4, I think a lot of the legwork could have been done for this, where if they're going to take it also from 76 and iterate upon it and make it this genuine side feature, which they claimed it was in Fallout 4, and it absolutely was not, because there were main story quests that you would have to go ahead and do involving the settlement mode. I'm then hoping that, fingers crossed, this can just be this very cool side thing that's almost like Minecraft and Starfield, and you don't have to do it. It doesn't affect the choices in the game, the character building you do, the stuff that you can unlock. Again, if it's a true to the side adventure, that's awesome. That's what I wanted from Fallout 4. But if it is something that becomes central to the game's design and everything's really feeding off this one core component, which was Fallout 4 settlement mode, where there were a ton of empty towns and empty locations because they were supposed to be settlements that you would build yourself and then fill them with life, it's good on paper. To me, it took away from what makes BGS games so magical, in a manner of speaking. So as much as I do love the idea of a great settlement mode in Starfield, I do remain a bit skeptical about it. But it looks like, based off seeing all these different prefabs and parts lying about, and the way that the walls specifically to me look snapped together like something in a settlement mode. Again, I said this when these first screenshots leaked, that Bethesda Game Studios stink is kind of on these images where I'm like, okay, well, this does look like these two objects snapped together. I'm starting to think this is settlement mode, and if it is, I can only hope now and cross my fingers that this is something that Bethesda just makes as a side thing. With that, some of you may be asking, like, why? Why would Bethesda Game Studios do this again? Well, number one, a lot of people like it. I may not be crazy about it. I know some of you out there may not be crazy about it, but a lot of people do like it, and that's kind of just enough as it is. But also, as a business, let's be honest, Creation Club can help monetize some of this. Modding, of course, made settlement modes a lot better, so there's that as well, allowing users and mod authors to take new prefabs into their world and build some really cool stuff. So there's that potential there. There's the social media marketability of settlement mode that no one really talks about. I mean, Fallout 4 came out right around the time that like PS4 shared, Xbox screenshot sharing was really starting to pick up steam, and you'd see people like going, check out my settlement, check out this gameplay clip. So with settlement modes, you're going to see that a lot, right? You're going to see a ton of things that people go, look what I built. So I feel like there's a lot of compelling reasons as a business to have this in there, just allowing the user to be creative off to the side. And I think this could be good because Starfield, I expect to be this action-adventure, open-world RPG. But for those who want to just explore in a passive, safe way and build, Starfield could be a totally different game for that user. And that's actually a cool offer to have as a AAA game. And it should have that to accommodate those types of players. So I think, again, there's a lot of potential in Starfield settlement mode. I'm not crazy about it. Again, if it's just this side venture, cool. But otherwise, I just hope that they focus on being a hardcore RPG like Todd Howard has said, because to me, when I saw Far Harbor, I went, okay, the old BGS still lives. Like, they're in there. There's still a lot of potential and them telling good stories with actual meaningful choices. I want to see them do it on a bigger scale, and I'm hoping Starfield is their chance to do so. They got 76 out of the way. They're like, okay, here's our game. We're going to monetize and keep the Fallout license alive for a while. Don't even get me into that. And now they're focusing on their true project here. So all we can do is cross our fingers, and we'll learn more as this year progresses. And of course, whenever stuff pops up, whether it be leaked or out there legitimately, I will be covering it. So consider again subscribing. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning into today's video. I hope you did enjoy. I know a lot of you don't care about the setup, but if you do and the audio quality is not as good, well, I'm using a Blue Yeti. I'm not using my Shure SM7B, so apologies for that. I know it's not ideal, but we should be back in the studio soon, as quickly as the weather cleans up. So with that, take great care of yourselves. Let me know what you're thinking of all this Starfield information in the comments down below. Do fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that. It fuels all the content here, and a shout out to everyone who's been helping build that a ton. I really do appreciate that. It really helps keep the gears moving on this channel. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.